Before we move on to rotation number 5, let's take you back to rotation number 4. On the floor exercise, Randy Lillenquist of Arizona. Senior at Arizona, and she's from Tucson.
She is just stunning on this event. Really has such great facial expression. Really involves the audience.
Yeah, she does. She really brings it, doesn't she? Difficult it is too when you see those seats that are retracted back in, where it makes almost like a wall, where this event usually, as you said earlier, is held right in the center of the arena.
And the gymnasts, it's hard for them not to feel like they're competing in a vacuum over there with nobody involved with them. But that's why she's doing such a sensational job. Really
How are you on time, PK?
Very nice job.
So big finish and a great smile from Randy Lillenquist.
One of the top floor performers in the country. And you can see why. A nice combination of good performance and good tumbling. Very nice form in the air, legs perfectly together. You got to get something for that smile.
I would think, yeah. It'll melt the hearts of all the fans. Whether or not it does the judges, I don't know. They could be pretty icy. So Lillenquist completing that discipline for Arizona, and does so in dramatic fashion. 9.950. That's as good a score almost as we've seen all day long. And Arizona, after 4 rotations, has at least a momentary lead. But again, you see the scores being quite skewed because they have participated in all 4 of the rotations, whereas UCLA, Oregon State, Stanford, Washington, ASU still are one behind. So we're going to move ahead now to the 5th rotation. Very hard to sing along with the music here because there's always a team or 2 or 3 that are at least 1 rotation behind. So you're not really going to know what happens until the very end. It's like a good movie. In the 5th rotation, Arizona State will be on vault, Stanford on the bars, UCLA will be on beam, Washington in floor X, and the teams with the bye will be Arizona, Oregon State, and California. This is Carla DiMartini of Arizona State on vault. Sophomore, as you see, from Northern California, Petaluma, chicken and egg country.
And unfortunately, they just really started off behind the 8 ball on balance beam. They scored a 47.075, extremely low score. They've had trouble all year round on balance beam. It's just proven to be a bugger for them. Really a tough event for them this year.
Let's look at Carla.
Pretty good position at the top of the vault. They're trying to keep that straight, laid out position, though, throughout the whole last half of the vault in the after flight.
And 9.8 the score for Carla DiMartini, despite that little step back.
I said it's really hard for impossible for the wind not to go out of your sails when you start off like that on balance beam.
That's Cassidy Ricci.
Full twisting Yurchenko. Yeah, look how you can tell by the look on her face. Very low landing on that vault.
Pretty tough competition thus far for ASU. Another look at Cassidy Ricci.
Really important to get the right combination of height and rotation. She didn't have either of that. You can see that her head was down below the level of the horse.
Moving over to beam now, UCLA's Jamie Dancer.
As I said, she is just loaded with talent. She just has to control her mind, her performs on this event, and often does. She did extremely well in the Olympic year, qualifying for the Olympic team.
Just looks so confident. You know, there's a real difference when you look at her and some of the other competitors that we've seen here today. The wobble there.
Very nicely done. She's doing extremely well. Once she started competing the balance beam in college, she's done incredibly well. Take any of the other events for her now. She's one of the best in the country, if not the best, in every event.
Well, having that international experience, too, nothing can replace that.
A little funky on the dismount, but she pulled it off. The rest of her team was solid as can be.
She knew it. UCLA going through this event very loosey-goosey. They know they still got the national championships to come.
Actually, they've got something on the line. What they're trying to do, they need to score a certain score, and I believe it's in the 197s, which is a big score, because they want to stay in the West for the regionals. So they've got it all worked out. It's a very complex equation that I cannot tell you what it is, but they want to end up first, because they'll be paired up with 12, and that will keep them on the west side. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does, actually. But I agree with you. It is the most complicated. You know, I get a chance to do an awful lot of sports. None more complicated than this one.
You don't want to have to travel back east, back to Louisiana for their regional competition.
Right. I mean, you could equate it to basketball, where a team wants to win the conference championship, because if you win the conference championship, chances are you're going to be placed, in this case, in the West. Lindsay Wignow of Stanford.
An excellent job. Just a little trouble on the landing on the dismount. She was a little over-rotated. Very nice height, good amplitude. Very nice stretched body line. Really looking for those very long handstands, seeing vertical in those pirouetting moves. Look at the height, well up above the bar. Just pulled it around a little too far. Got to open out of your tuck, but that's a blind landing. You don't see the ground. You have to know exactly where it is to come up with a perfect landing. Got to be part cat.
That's right. Let's go back to the vault now, and Arizona State's Maggie Germain. Maggie, very tall for a gymnast. She's 5'8".
And for all the tall gymnasts out there, our current world champion is 5'4", which is very, very tall. So 5'8" is a giant.
Yeah.
Good work. Looks pretty out there when she uses the long lines.
And a good score for her, 9.925 for Maggie Germain in vault. Malia Jones now on the beam for UCLA.
So far they're doing very, very well on the balance beam. Very big scores. Finally, their last two events, really. The uneven bars and the balance beam. This is the kind of performance they need to do if they hope to win another national championship. And there's even still some room for improvement for them. The little things that they're starting to hone in on. But those are the kind of landing. It's going to take every single landing like that and every routine solid.
That was a good job. Gets the compliments of her coach and her teammates. Malia Jones having a pretty consistent meet here. This is rotation number 5. We'll come back with more from the Women's Championships after this.